Hi, and welcome to the show Podium, and we're on session 035. And this week starts a few weeks of being joined by special guest Jamie Smart. And the webinar was called Performing at Your Best When You're at Your Worst. So we are going to go straight over now and join Jamie. And I love it that Jamie's here because I don't know if you know, but Jamie's book Clarity was the very first introduction I had to this understanding. And it was kind of by chance. I'm driving down the M6 home from Scotland and literally I said to whatever, give me something to keep me occupied for the next 6 months. And there was Jamie's book. And I was in a pretty horrible state. And that's another story for another time. But it was just a really lovely moment. And just something said, yep, that's the one. So it's just great now, isn't it? And that was the start of my journey and it turned my life around. So I'm really, really appreciative of having Jamie on this call today. This is really a rather special one for me. So thank you, Jamie, for joining us. And I just want to read a little bit about Jamie. All right. I'm sure you all know Jamie Smart, but this will go out globally. And so there'll be lots of people that will be joining us at a different time. So Jamie Smart is a Sunday Times bestselling author, speaker, and executive coach. He presents regularly at major conferences worldwide, sharing the principles behind clarity with individuals and businesses and showing them how to create the results that matter to them. He's passionate about working with coaches, consultants, and other transformational professionals to help them have a big impact with their clients and grow thriving practices. His books include Clarity, Clear Mind, Better Performance, Bigger Results, The Little Book of Clarity, and his latest book, Results, Think Less, Achieve More. And you can find out more about Jamie's work on www.jamiesmart.com and on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at jamiesmart.com. All right. So let's just get straight into our wonderful session. And when I spoke to Jamie about this get together, I said, think of a title that is something occurring to you right now. And he came up with Performing at Your Best When You're at Your Worst. So I thought I'm just going to hand it straight over to Jamie and see if he's going to tell us something about that.
Well, it's interesting, Denise, as I was listening to you just before you started the intro, you said that, and I guess you probably, I'm almost certain you told me this when we've met in the past, but I guess I'd forgotten that clarity was your kind of introduction to this work. And as I listened to you, so I was listening, I was like, oh, that's cool. It's cool to hear that. And as I was listening, what I heard you say was that you're at a really low point and you picked that book out and your life has changed. So you are at your worst and you made a move and like you did something and it's transformed your life. So in a way, you're a great example of the fact that even when someone's, they may be feeling low or in a bad state of mind or whatever it might be, but you can still do things like you still have that wisdom, that intelligence, that inner guidance system working for you, whether you know it or not. Like this isn't a conscious thing. This is, we have this self-correcting system, this inner guidance system, this intelligence that allows us to make good moves, even when we're not in the best space. And so it's good to know because whether in the domain of, I know that the podium's about sports performance, but we all have areas in our lives where we're looking for a top performance, whether it's on the athletics field or whether it's in the boardroom or whether it's, public speaking or when we're trying to say the right thing to our children. We all have times when we're maybe struggling or not feeling at our best. And so it's really nice to know that regardless of how you're feeling, You can still make good decisions. You can, I could give you a really, really simple, this is kind of an extreme example in a funny way, but I was in a relationship once, and this particular person I was going out with, she used to be in the habit of, from time to time, she would send what I would call like a hand grenade message. So she would send me a text message, which would have me go, wow, like, changing plans at short, that things that would just, it seemed to me, Denise, like these messages were calculated to cause maximum disruption, right? So I'm teaching a workshop with a corporate group. So we're away for like 4 days in the countryside with this beautiful hotel and that sort of thing. And we're on a lunch break. And I receive one of these hand grenade messages. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I'm like, basically sending her that's it. We're over. I'm literally about to press send on this relationship ending text message. And so I was at my worst, I would say. Not like I wasn't in the depths of depression, but I was angry. I was annoyed. I was completely outside in, like, and I didn't even know it. I did see, and here's the thing, Denise. I was at my worst, and I didn't know I was at my worst. Mm. You see, so see, that's the most dangerous time to be at your worst is when you don't know you're at your worst. That's when you can make the worst moves. So I'm literally about to hit send, and suddenly the thought comes to my mind: are you seeing clearly right now? And I was like, yeah, as a matter of fact, I am. Because I was feeling good about it. I was like, I'm gonna be a free man again. I was. So then a thought comes again. Where do you believe your experience? I was like, do you think it's coming from her, or from the text messages, and from how she always does this? Do you think your feelings are coming from there? And I was like, whoa, I did think that. I did think that. Like, well, it doesn't work that way. That's not real. That's not possible. So, like, in the midst of potentially my most destructive impulses, that wisdom, that understanding, that clarity about what's true rises to the surface. Mm. And it's there. Like, we all have that source of wisdom, that source of guidance, that self-correcting nature. Now, that doesn't mean that we'll always take it into consideration. But so I think there are two aspects to this that I find interesting, maybe even three. So one is the capacity we have to this intelligence, this wisdom we have that is always doing its best to point us back in the right direction. So that's one piece of it. The second piece of it is like, and it's funny, many, many years ago, I just wrote an article about this. I used to be properly terrified of public speaking, properly frightened of it. Like if I went out on stage, my knees would knock and my throat would dry up and all the color would drain from my face and I would be unable to speak. It was rough. It wasn't good. And what it was is like I would get these uncomfortable feelings and these body sensations and all those things I just described. And then my head would go into overdrive about it, like trying to figure it out and that sort of thing. Well, today I'm a very comfortable public speaker. I'm unconcerned. But here's the funny thing, Denise. I might experience any set of sensations, any set of emotions, any set of physiological responses when I go on stage. But the difference is I don't really care how I'm doing. It's just not that important to me in terms of how I'm feeling. Just isn't that relevant, because I know that I don't have to feel a certain way in order to do a good job. And I'll give you a present moment example. In the past, like 20 years ago or whatever, so I was all into, state control. And if I was going to be doing something like this, like we're doing together, I would want to be in optimum state so that I can come and be impressive and, do all that sort of stuff. So I would have put a bunch of thought and energy and focus into it beforehand. Now, obviously, I want to show up and support you and connect with the folks who are joining us here and create a good podcast episode and everything like that. So I still want to do that. And so half an hour before the call, so 45 minutes ago, it suddenly occurs to me, phone up Denise. So I wasn't concerned or anything. It was just occurs to me, phone up Denise, find out just a little bit more about the structure of the webinar and the podcast and stuff. So I pick up the phone to you, you answer, we have a chat for 5 minutes. Like, oh, okay, good. And then I, went and had some tuna fish and I did a little bit of writing and this sort of thing. Wasn't really thinking about this session, well, not consciously anyway. So then we get on the session and I'm just like, okay, here I am. I don't have to be in a particular state. I don't have to be in a particular mood or anything like that. I know that each of us has this. I'll tell you another story, and then I'll demonstrate in that. This is a funny kind of a performance story. So a few years ago, I get a call to go on Sky Sports Breaking News. So this is when Andrew Strauss was. The speculation was that he was going to announce his resignation as England's cricket captain. So I get the call to go on Sky Sports, and it's going out live to 5.5 million people. So my instant response is like, this is a huge opportunity. So I'm like, oh no, this is terrifying for me. Like live TV, terrifying. Not something I want to do, but I know it's a good opportunity. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So this is another one. I don't have to feel motivated or inspired or clear-headed or any of that to say yes to going on TV. I'm like, I'm terrified. I'd prefer not to do it. Yes, I'll do it. So they send a car, comes to get me, takes me to the studio. I'm sitting there in the green room, and I am literally so anxious that I'm pacing back and forth in the green room, pacing back and forth, sweating bullets, pacing back and forth, pacing back and forth. There's this other guy in the green room. He's a journalist, like a seasoned pro. He's been on TV hundreds and hundreds of times. He goes, how you doing? I'm like, not good, not good. I'm really nervous. He's like, oh, what are you going to do about that? I'm like, nothing. He's like, how come? I said, well, my mind's a self-correcting system. I said, the best thing I got going for me is to leave it alone. And he's like, good luck with that. And so, whenever it was, 10 minutes later, the runner came to get me, took it out on set. And I was still nervous as hell, really, really nervous, shaky baby nervous. And I go out, Dermot Murnahan's there, the newscaster. They sit me down in the chair, and it just occurs to me, he's an interviewer. What occurs to me is, listen to him. This would probably be useful. Listen to what he's saying. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's good thinking. So he asks me a question. I'm listening to, well, I'm a pretty good listener. So I start listening to Dermot and I start feeling connected to him right away. As I start listening to him and feeling connected to him, I kind of just kind of settle down a bit. Now, here's the thing. My brain was still running 1,000,000 miles an hour, right? But then I kind of, when I came out with the stuff, I came out with what I needed in the moment. So I would easily put, getting pitched for that interview as it was the ride to the studio was a horrible experience. That was me at my worst. But I was delighted with the performance, right? So I think the thing that I had going for me, and that every one of us has going for us, if we only realize that, is, see, if you stop and think about it for a moment, the fact that we're even here today means, like, for each one of us, all 7 billion of us on the planet, we've evolved from a long line of literally millions and millions of generations of creatures who managed to, at the very least, survive till breeding age, have sex at least once, and bring up a child. And that's happened again and again and again, millions of times. So we're so optimized to this relatively hostile planet, We're optimized to it. So we're capable of far, far more than we think we are. We're built for reality. We're built for it. We're built for being able to do ton of different things. And then we have all these ideas about what we're capable of or what we're not capable of and all that sort of thing. But actually, we've been through the ultimate iterative development cycle with the toughest selection process, evolution. Like, it doesn't take any prisoners. And here we are. We're literally, in a very literal sense, the leading edge of evolution. We're capable of far more than we think we are. We underestimate ourselves. And in fact, the areas where we struggle are the areas where we underestimate ourselves and underestimate what we've got going for us, underestimate the resilience and intelligence and wisdom and clarity and creativity that we have at the heart of our nature.
Wow, what a wonderful session with Jamie Smart. And I just want to say a big thank you to him. And we have much, much more coming from Jamie in the coming sessions. So if you would like to get hold of Jamie, learn more about his work, you can look on his website at www.jamiesmart.com, or you can find him on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at jamiesmart.com. That leaves me to say thank you so much for listening in, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.